yeah. 1 second.
That's a long run.
You don't get to see the back of your own head very often, so this is really
Okay. Plus, I'm doing a short recording of how we talk, especially for Lila. But I didn't say that, okay? Otherwise she'll kill me. But I was telling her that it would be a good idea to see how we talk. And
it's always good, yes.
Hopefully, incrementally improve.
Maybe we can do that with our MBA program.
You should ask him. He should be able to give you a copy of the video. When I did it a couple of weeks ago, they gave me a copy of it, the whole thing.
But I mean, I'm also learning like us on that corner over there and the presentation together. I didn't know we could do it.
Yeah.
So most of my students, when they present on using Blackboard, their presentation is coming up and their voice, and not their face on the top right.
Yes. Yeah.
Picture in picture.
Yes, exactly. So. I don't think we will last entire 2 hours, which we had budgeted for. We kept the 2 hours because we thought we did a half-day solid presentation in DC at the IEEE conference, and we thought we'd come back and provide value, and then we'll see how we go.
It's quality, not quantity.
Wow. Wow, I love that. You should have seen that at 5:30 a.m. Okay, Lila.
Okay. So is this did he put it on the recording?
It's all on. So
okay.
You can start. Here is the.
I should start?
Yes.
Okay. Hello everyone. Sorry for the late start. We are like, the printer broke down, but we needed it, so it's okay. Finally, we got it all sorted out. Sorry, I was running to catch my breath. Okay, so today we are here with Dr. Unhelkar, and we are going to present to you about big data. I'm sure some of you know about it, but some of you maybe it's a new term for you. So this is not going to be very advanced because we want to make sure that everybody kind of understand what we are talking about. So today's presentation is going to be divided into 2 different sections. The first part is going to be the research that we are working on. The second part is going to be about the framework that Dr. Unhelkar has created. And also we are going to talk about the tools and technologies for big data. And we are going to actually show you a demo of IBM Watson. And if there is a time, I'm going to show you another demo of import.io, which is another tool for big data. So the first part is going to be the research kind of a thing that we are working on. And the survey, sorry, I couldn't print for everybody, but most of you have the survey. If not, maybe you can pass it around. This is kind of like a preliminary survey that we kind of have. We are going to modify it because I kind of looked at it last night and we are missing some stuff. So we need to, and we need your feedback too, because sometimes the survey could be very long and people, they don't fill it out. So it's not going to be as effective. So that's why I want you guys to kind of give your feedback as well as anything regarding this research, because we are going to try to get the IRB approved after the survey kind of, after we finish with our survey. We are going to get the IRB approved and start it immediately. So, because most of the literature review is done, and the research methodology, I mean, we have a whole kind of a framework for it. So it's not going to take us that long to move forward with it. So today, basically, the title is Walk, Don't Run, Big Data Adaptation in Small, Medium-Sized Enterprises, or what we call it SMEs. Maybe you are familiar with it. So this is an empirical study of SMEs in US businesses. And for our research, we are going to actually focus in Florida. Because, I mean, and to be honest with you, just before I start this, there hasn't been that many publications, or at least I can say there aren't that many surveys at all in SMEs in Florida that are adopting big data. So it's kind of like, that's why we thought it's lacking, so it's a good area to research it. There are some research in UK and Denmark. I found some surveys that they have done for SMEs using big data, but I couldn't find anything in, well, I found some maybe in US, but not particularly Southeast region of US. Okay.
No, that's good.
No, it just doesn't work. Okay. Okay, so this is part one. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is purpose of this research. What is big data? We are going to go into SMEs in Florida. We are going to talk about benefits of big data in SME. And we are going to talk to you about two theoretical models, TOE framework and TAM framework. These two frameworks are basically, what you call them, they are the technology acceptance model, and so they are basically used in the industries if they want to know the IT adoption rate or the diffusion or something like that that is happening in their industry. And then we have the research method, the survey instrument, and future direction that we are going to take with this research. Okay. So now I'm going to let Dr. Unhelkar take the part.
Me. Right, if it works. So a bit of background. Lila and I went to an IEEE conference in September, and I remember Lila once coming to my office and saying, "Oh my God, it is accepted." And this was not just a paper, but a half-day seminar or workshop. And we were pitched against Barry Beam. And Barry Beam is like the doyen of IT. And in IEEE, if I am there, I would go and attend Barry Beam because he put his spiral model of software development when I was in my nappies. And he turned out to be a very, very nice person. And we went and socialized with him and so on. But we said that when we come back from that presentation or that seminar, we will share with you what we presented over there. But then we realized that we can also take it a step further, and we also share with you the research project that we have put together and take some feedback from you. So that's the background for what we are doing. Some of the things that Lila already highlighted is our focus is Florida, and within that SMEs, small and medium enterprises, because we don't see any large enterprises in here anyway. So that's our background. And then of course, we find, again, by doing searches and reading some papers, that SMEs are forming a substantial part of the economy. And if we can somehow help them improve their decision making, then we are making a good contribution overall to the community. And most of the time, the focus is on large businesses and SMEs like a coffee shop, a restaurant, a news outlet tend to get ignored. So that was the main thinking behind it. We also found that increasingly compliance is sort of killing SMEs. We have numerous legal requirements, tax requirements, but beyond tax, even how the SMEs are supposed to operate. There is a phenomenal amount of documentation, and I have actually one-on-one talked with someone who is running a restaurant, someone who is running a small physiotherapy clinic, and they tell me that they spend an hour or two every evening filling out forms. And we thought that maybe there is an opportunity to help these organizations utilize the big data technologies to improve their compliance. As Lila mentioned, Southeast US region closer to us and of course likely to benefit more. We aim to, and we have already started informally, but formally we aim to explore the mindset of these users who are owners of SMEs. And we can't use any technical language. So the survey draft that we have provided you is likely to go to people who may not even understand the term big data. They may have come across it somewhere, but they will not. And there are people who don't understand IoT and cloud. So we will have to do the survey in a language that these users can understand. What is the purpose of helping them adopt big data? And the way we have defined it is to help those businesses become agile. And then we have further refined the word agile as helping them make their decisions faster and accurate. And then iteration is of course the word that comes out of agile. For example, a typical restaurant on Main Street does not know how many customers are going to walk in through the door. And they are continuously doing this balancing act of, do we need an extra kitchen hand? Or do we need to set up an extra table? Or do we set up out on the sidewalk or inside? These are the decisions they take based on their experience, their knowledge of how their business has operated over the past 2, 5, or 20 years. Can we help them improve that decision making? And that's where the word agile has been used. So when it comes to understanding how the decision making can change from either using the data which is in their head or using a sophisticated Excel spreadsheet through to what we really mean by big data. And there are lots of definitions. This is just a survey that was done by Qatar. Was it? Yeah, it was a Qatar executive. Yeah, it is. But the interesting responses came. These are not SME responses. These are general responses by people who were asked what do they think is big data. And I also found this, being an IT person, I found Hadoop very interesting. And just in the month of June, I was traveling in India. I have an Indian cultural background, ethnic background. I traveled to India, and a friend of mine in Bangalore sent me a picture or took a picture. He says, I mean, there is a electric pole, and there is a cow standing, and cows are standing everywhere. It's truly democratic country. Even animals have a right to stand and do whatever animals do. So he took a picture of the cow, electric pole, and a sticker over there, a paper printed sticker, Hadoop in 3 weeks. And I thought, let me not criticize that. There is something there that I need to understand. And what I understood from there is that big data in a certain cross section is simply anonymous with Hadoop. And nothing wrong with that, because Hadoop has been the key to starting of big data. But what's our interest, Lila and my interest in this research, is not Hadoop, not even the distributed databases or whatever it is. Can we help the businesses out here in Florida? That's the goal. So what is big data? And here is one more viewpoint on what is big data. And there are some businesses where I have presented this and people have completely agreed. Thank you for, it's like a flash of light. Anything that is more difficult or challenging to process with the given tools and technologies is big data. Now that seems to be a very bad or very rough definition, but it still holds. For example, 20 years back, 1 gigabyte was like scary. And now those floppies, 1.44 megabyte, are souvenir items. I have still preserved them. So one day I can tell my son that this is how we used to work. So this picture, in my opinion, conveys what is big data. These 4 strong men are loading a massive 5 megabyte. In 1956, this is the IBM picture. So in 2017, if we are struggling to process a petabyte, we are doing big data. In 5 years from now, the computing power and speed will be so much better that 1 petabyte can be easily processed. It will no longer be big data. That's one way of looking at it. There is a more technical definition also. But anything that is challenging to process with the given set of tools and technologies, Hadoop included, is big data. So what does that mean? It means we need to develop new tools and new technologies and new techniques and new architectures of no interest to SMEs. But I'm just providing you with the background. So why is it that we are talking about it? Because everything is exploding in terms of storage. And there are companies like Backblaze and CrashPlan, which will charge you and me $60 a year and back up unlimited amount, unlimited. So the only way they are limiting our ability to back up our personal data or data that is work related is through speed. They say every day will allow you to back up 2 gigabyte. So I had 500 gigabyte and it took me whatever, a month or so to back up everything. Maybe it's more than 2 gigabyte. The availability of data. We are talking about storage and processing, but this is the age where data is available like never before, including this particular recording, which I better stop now because it's going to chew up my space. If I put my GPS on, I have created data, and that can range from 2 megabyte to 20 megabyte to even more. And depending on the parameters I have set, Uncle Google has recorded where I was, what I was, at what speed I was driving, how many times I drive from my home to work. Everything is there, and that can be used for either better decision making or crooked decision making, like insurance companies. And if the insurance companies know my style of driving, they can either reduce my insurance or increase it. It is also possible because of the sophistication of communication. Even with IoT devices, and last night I was reviewing a paper in cybersecurity of IoT devices. And most of us are carrying a Fitbit or a phone, and even our cars, the newer cars are themselves IoT on wheels, Internet of Things. And that cyber security paper was talking about the key challenge of a IoT device as compared to our laptop or a mobile phone is that the operating system on the IoT device never gets updated. How many times our Fitbit OS is updated? Very, very few. So there are those kind of challenges, but the possibilities have happened because of cloud and internet. And then of course, analytics. How much of data Fitbit is giving me? Last night, or last evening I should say, I have done 8,000 steps. And I'm now encouraged to take 2,000 steps, and I'm saying, where will I go? I am enjoying my evening. It's freezing outside for change. And I am enjoying my Indian curry, and I have no plans of walking 2,000 steps. But it is giving me that exact number of steps. So the amount of information that I am getting out of these analytics is also phenomenal. Okay, this is additional data on why and how much everything is increasing. I think Anurag had a better slide in this saying if you have so many petabytes, zettabytes, whatever it will occupy the server size will be that of New York, Manhattan, and so on. Very interesting. So how do we now narrow it down? Before we start helping our SMEs, how do we narrow down the definition? And IBM had published Arun Sathi's well-known paper, and his book was 4 V's of big data. High volume. High is a qualitative word, I understand. High velocity, which is also a qualitative word. Variety. So when we say big data, how do we differentiate it from large data? And large is large, but structured. And big may be large, may not be large, but is definitely unstructured. So you can see, we can have audio, video, images, sensor, text, numbers, and mix. A simple example, a survey is structured, but that last column where we say and pass any comments is unstructured. A email is unstructured. And how do we analyze a newspaper report or blog, which is like there are 500 newspaper articles on the business of coffee in Sarasota. How do I analyze them? They are not in rows and columns. One journalist is saying the opportunity for coffee is great, and the other is saying it's not bad. And how am I going to figure out that not bad actually is meaning good when different authors will use different styles? That's what I call big data as compared to large data. And then of course, I enjoyably published V for value, saying unless big data is converted into value for business, it's meaningless. And I can do the most sophisticated analytics, but how am I helping a business make better decisions? That's value. So this is of course available to all friends, but otherwise Qatar holds on to it, but it sends out to a few thousand readers. But the 5th V is V for value on big data. Now, if we look at how this kind of analytics has helped businesses in the past, it throws some light on how it can help in the future. So here are some interesting examples. This is one of my favorite examples. This company doesn't exist. It's now purchased by Microsoft for $110 million. And it was able to see faircast instead of forecast. It is able to provide something what Kayak or Skyscanner is doing now with a certain confidence level. And the person who put this together gave this guarantee that I am predicting, as in his tool is predicting, that the prices of such and such flight from here to there is going to go up in the next 1 week, and I recommend you buy now. And if it doesn't go up, and instead if it goes down, I'll refund. And his analytics had 70-75% confidence level. So his business model was, I'm going to make money 75% of the time, and I will lose 25% of the time. This is interesting, and it does bring in ethical and moral issues, but the late Steve Jobs is known to have played around with genomes and their sequencing and so on, which is how big data has been used to make predictions or do calculations that otherwise are not very easy or cheap to do. So this can be done in $99 or some very basic predictions about my health based on my genes. So it's a question of sending a sample of saliva and getting some feedback. I'm not recommending we do it right now, but it can be done. And then, traffic. And not only that, so one more definition, or the way I have tried to define big data, and that's one of my crucial questions, which will benefit SMEs, but I don't know how to ask them, is when we are bringing in data sets that are so far removed from the normal data set that an SME may not have even thought about it. So let me explain. Restaurant, coffee shop, or Anna Maria Oyster Bar. And Dr. Joe Askren and I, we have gone around some of these places from a hospitality viewpoint. So that's another research that Joe and I are doing. We asked the decision maker, how do you take decisions on the food, the oyster that you have to order and the food and all that? And he says, in my head. And I said, no, but still tell me. And then he showed me an Excel spreadsheet. And then he and I started talking about big data. So his understanding of big data was that instead of an Excel spreadsheet, it will be a massive database in the background, some sort of Oracle, some sort of SAP, which will contain more of the same data. And he has data over the past few years. And he says, see, I'm plotting charts and all, I think he's good in Excel. He's doing a great job. It is his business. He owns the business. It's a small business. I said, have you considered weather? And he looked at me and says, I do, yeah. I mean, whenever I'm ordering food or I'm asking extra helping hand, I keep weather in mind. I said, weather data. And he said, no. I said, what about traffic? He said, yeah, I know, it's snow season. Yes, he knows and I know that they are coming. This is the time they are coming. I-75 is a good indicator whether it is snowing or not. And I said, John, that is big data as compared to large data. When you are incorporating data sets that are freely available on factors like weather and traffic and sports and festivals and hurricanes and economy and so on, which can be incorporated in your decision making to tell you whether you should be ordering for extra food or reducing your orders or asking for an extra helping hand or opening up a new restaurant. That is big data. And that is how I expect it to help small businesses. None of them will own a server. None of them will even, I would even recommend they use their own machines. Everything has to be a tool that is hosted on the cloud. They simply log in. They input some data and they make use of all other data. That is the way I expect SME to make use of it. This is a well-known example, but I'm hinting at the process of how to go about it. I have removed the political intonations here, but even in the last election, something like this had happened, that candidates were able to zero in on certain constituencies and the keywords to be used in those constituencies. And the company that was hired is called Cambridge Analytics in Boston. Very fascinating stuff. And now I'm attending Anurag's lectures in analytics, and I can actually see, okay, this is music. It's poetry, not data, because the way data gets analyzed, it reveals something that is almost magical if we had not known data. And that's what seems to have happened in the last and even in the 2008 elections. And then of course we want to produce, so Lila is very keen to highlight that we should be actually producing some good data scientists right from our location. Okay. Am I still continuing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now so this is where we also need your input to help us proceed in the right way with our research. So our context of the study is small and medium enterprises. They are, okay, this is a more formal definition, but how is it that we understood SMEs? Decision making by the owner. The coffee shop, the restaurant, the small movie theater, privately owned, anything, a small clothes shop or whatever it is, the decision making is by one person. It's not a listed company. Tools for decision making are so basic that when we talk about big data, the answer we got and can get is just go away. I don't want to do anything sophisticated. First and major concern is how much it will cost. And second, and equally important concern is what do we lose? Like how much do we have to give in terms of data in order to get analytics? And the scale is real because of so many factors. So there are people who just want to use Excel. There are some who don't want to use even Excel because they've got their data, just the tax data, like their tax returns can form the basis of their decision making as to how much they made, how much they are likely to make, and so on. So this is the stats, and then okay, financial market, and then okay, we have done a bit of literature review where we have identified the potential of big data helping businesses, and there are some references here as well. We do find it interesting, and again, Lila has collected more data on this, that the contribution by SMEs to the economy is at par and sometimes more than large businesses, but their characteristics are different. Now we did a bit of search on Florida, and we found some interesting characteristics. We are considered, okay, depends on who is analyzing the data, but we are considered an innovative state in many more ways than one. 78% SMEs, survival of SMEs at this particular rate, but this percentage, and again, we can take it with a pinch of salt, but stepping out of the campus and I can see that most businesses are not large auto manufacturer or no such thing. So this is the number of SMEs, and so this is where we have drawn the details from. So we feel justified to focus on SMEs and their relationship with big data. The next 5 slides I'll just zoom through. They are available for you. Of course, the whole presentation is available for you, but it tells us the tremendous importance of SMEs. So this is the data on, so again, we have the third populous state, these many small businesses, and these are the kind of services that we have been offering. Okay. So here is now our effort to map whatever we have studied so far to business strategies. And we find, okay, again, stats, 76% of organizations are planning to increase or maintain their investment, 51 are large, 44.9 as important. So our focus has been strategy, business strategy, and that can be at a macro level for, say, all restaurants, all clothes shops, all coffee shops kind of thing, and then we can drill down even within Sarasota area if we can. I'm not sure if we have enough resources to do so. Okay, and some of these well-published articles. This, in fact, cloud-based big data analytics will be the future for SMEs is like totally our viewpoint. And in fact, we are having questions around, again, they may or may not understand cloud, but certainly they understand that the decisions that they want to take could be based on data that is available on their cell phone. And in fact, we again found it very interesting that this is still informal chat that we are having, that if you can give me something on my cell phone so that I don't have to log in anywhere, I'll use that first. Because it looks like a SME owner wakes up early in the morning and looks at his or her phone to start making decisions. So, presentation and visualization, which is a crucial aspect of big data output, needs to be in sync with SME requirements, which is give me the analytics on the phone. What are the challenges? Okay, we have again done some research to find out, as I told you, availability of information, how much it is going to cost, how much of my personal data, that is my company's personal data, is exposed, and so obviously the risks associated with it, and so on. This is coming in again and again, but again, the informal investigation or questions that we have asked. Security is a word, a scary word. Beyond that, there is no understanding of what it really means. How can they secure their data on their phone? How can the security of technology be different from security of processes? For example, a password, having a secured password and two-phase authentication and all that, they understand because every Google account has two-part authentication. But beyond that, how can the processes be made more secure? There's no idea. I will hold on to my phone and that's my security. And so on. These are all some very good articles that we have gone through as a part of our research. We found people do understand Google Analytics, and some of the questions we asked will include whether they are using Google Analytics. The difficulty there is it is still large data rather than big data. What does that mean? They could be looking at their clickstream analytics, which is a very poor way of telling a restaurant owner whether they should have an additional kitchen hand or not, because it is dependent on so many of these other factors like weather and sports and traffic and so on. Okay, we have started mentioning some tools, and again, Anurag's lectures have been of value to me with Rapid Miner and R and so on, which, I mean, Tableau is out of scope for a big data, a small and medium enterprise. Their license is like $20,000. And I think there are some tools that you have, which is the one you have? Tableau. But the one when you did a demo on the cruise conference.
That's another one. That's Smart PLS. That's a separate thing.
But no
That's
potential
not big data. No, that's not big data. But Tableau we are using for application.
Right. But here we get it at academic license.
Yes.
So the opportunity there is to utilize Tableau to do a centralized analytics. Then the key question that SMEs will ask is, how will you help me differentiate from the next door coffee shop? I am a coffee shop and the next door is a coffee shop, and you are providing the same analytics to both. That needs to be worked out. So, okay, more on Florida specific. So tips for big data implementation in SMEs. I had picked this up from, I do remember it was related to Florida, but do not dismiss it, know when you need it. That's why our title is Walk, Don't Run. Start simple. Embedded analytics opportunities which SMEs don't have to code. They need to understand cloud. Obviously, they will never build and should not build. They should have use cases or understand use cases. This use case is a very poor term used in big data domain. It's actually case studies. Because, I mean, when I was doing my PhD in 1994-95, use cases were object-oriented. And Ivar Jakobsen made use cases popular through properly defining what they are. And when I look at big data use cases, it's case study. But instead of fighting, I just accept use cases. You will find use cases of dealing. And who has tried it and so on. In terms of tools, Google Analytics and a few other, and then we are adding to this particular list in terms of studying for big data. And there is another white paper here, and then there is a lot more stuff that any one of you interested, I can make available officially or informally for friends. And I'll come back again, but I'll let Lila talk a little bit on how we are planning to do our research in this area.
Okay, so let's continue. So the next part that I'm going to talk about is about the IT adoption and basically the framework that I've looked at the theoretical frameworks that are out there in terms of IT adoption. You know, like maybe when I was graduating, actually it was in 2008, my dissertation was about SMEs and e-commerce. So I'm very familiar with SMEs, and that's why I thought this is very interesting, because when I looked at the literature that are out there, as I mentioned, there aren't many literature about big data impact, or not impact, adopting big data in SMEs. So it's a very kind of a topic that's very interesting for me, as I am sure a lot of people might be interested in the SMEs, because 98% of the businesses are basically SMEs in Florida, as we looked at it. And so it is very important for our region especially. So some of the IT adoption model that I've looked at is the TOE framework. And basically, there are some literature that has been done. It's kind of a newer framework. TAM is a kind of an older framework, technology acceptance model. There are, of course, other models out there, which I'm going to mention to you guys. They are basically planned behavior model, theory of reason action, technology acceptance model. As you can see, it was 1986, and then they revised it in 1989, so it's still kind of old. One of the newest one is the TOE framework, and there is another one which maybe I might actually change from the TAM to DOI framework and diffusion of innovation, because right now I want to combine both the TOE framework with TAM framework together, look at it. And but I think I might have to look, I don't know anything about diffusion of innovation that much, so I have to just see if I can kind of combine that framework with the TOE framework. And please let me know if you have worked with any of these framework. Let me know your feedback, and so it would be very helpful. So basically, the TOE framework is focusing on technology, organization, environment, and there are some factors in it: the relative advantage for technology, the compatibility, the complexity of the technology, which in this case is very interesting for us because big data is complex for small businesses, as at least that's what they might think right now. So that's kind of interesting to look at. Organizational readiness, this is another factor. Like when I was doing e-commerce, when I was doing my dissertation, it was SME. It was e-commerce in SMEs in developing countries. And at that time in 2007 or 2006, 2007, e-commerce was a big thing, especially mobile commerce with developing countries. So that, and I've looked at these factors, the readiness of the organization, and that was very important. And I think this is the same thing is happening now. Before it was e-commerce, now we have big data. So it's kind of the same thing. And training and education in terms of organization, that's what is important too. We are going to look at that factor. Top management support, and that's what a lot of my question, actually, I'm going to send the survey for the top managers as well as other people, but the top managers, because they are making the strategic value. I mean, they are the ones who are making the strategic decisions, which that could bring into, okay, if they understand the value, then they can adopt big data. So, and then the other framework that I was thinking that I'm going to be using is the TAM framework, which also I've done a lot of research, which especially in terms of, but the thing is, in terms of big data, to be honest with you, I've looked at everywhere online. I haven't found a lot of research on using these frameworks on big data. In SMEs, maybe nothing, but in just big data, there are not that many, because as you know, the term is new. So there aren't that many research yet. And sometimes it's an advantage for a researcher, sometimes it's not. For me, when I was doing my dissertation in 2006, around 2006 area, and I was doing it in developing country, was a disadvantage because there weren't that many literature. And I thought, wow, that's great. I can, but I had hard time for the literature review. I mean, because I couldn't find that many literature that has been there in developing, in emerging world or the developing world that are focusing on big data. So maybe this could be something that maybe we can think as our research, maybe it's advantage or disadvantage if there aren't that many literature in SMEs for these framework. And then, So they are basically based on the literature we have defined that they are using this technology acceptance model and some of the characteristic that they are using. So the TAM, maybe you are more familiar with this one because this is being used a lot in the world and it's been there from 1986. So it's a very historical framework that's out there. And also looking at these factors, external variables, perceived usefulness, attitudes toward using it, perceived ease of use, and then after behavioral intention to the use of it, and actually using that, it comes to using big data or maybe adopting it. So some of the main research questions, I think there are a lot, but I have to work on this a little bit more. But what are the determinant factor of strategic value of big data in SME? So that's one of the key questions. How do the perceptions of a strategic value as viewed by top managers, owner of SME, influence their ability to make driven decision? Or age, you can explain that, agility, kind of like fast,
and accurate.
Yes, making fast and accurate decisions. And what are the factors involved in decision to adopt big data by top managers, owner of SMEs, and what are type of big data tools that they are using, and how to use them in terms of just being as an end user or being as somebody who is going to use it to make decisions. And what are the main roadblocks in use of big data analytics in SMEs that's not letting them use big data? So the design methodology, basically, as I said, I'm going to look at this theoretical model. There are kind of two things that I want to look at. Top managers perceive strategic value in big data. And then the second one is the influence the adoption of big data by using the TOE and TAM framework. So I might change the TAM to DOI. That's what we have to decide, me and Dr. Unhelkar, to see if that maybe fits better. And basically, how we are going to do it, we wanted to do a mixed method research, qualitative and quantitative. Why qualitative? Because we found that maybe a lot of top managers, they don't want to go through this survey that I gave you. And it might be hard for us to get them if we send out the survey. Maybe you can help me with that or give suggestions. But qualitative is better because we can just sit down with them, you know, and have open-ended questions with them, interview them, and basically kind of get most of our answers quicker that way. And easier for them too. And also it's not going to be like they are going to see us and we can even ask more detailed questions if it's necessary. So who are we targeting? We are targeting top managers of a small, medium-sized enterprises in Florida region of the US. So I call it Southeast Florida, and so Florida in general. In our study, we consider the number of employees as the principal criteria in determining whether a firm qualifies. Well, as one of the definitions, I think it was employees less than 500 employees considered, you know, to be SMEs. But there are many definitions out there. Even there is one that says 250. So we have to kind of stick with one definition that we want and just go with that. So according to US Small Business Administration, their cutoff is 500. So maybe we would choose this. So how are we going to, so this is kind of like, I used to do this when I was doing my dissertation a long time ago, but I thought it's kind of interesting to do it again. So literature review, research question, looking at secondary data, and also looking at our primary data, the interviews, and basically the survey. Oh, I forgot to mention the survey. The survey also is going to be sent out. I have to ask you guys are expert of what kind of some people are using some companies to send it out, some people are using Mechanical Turk, some people are using something else to send it out, or we can just find a list of 1,000 SMEs and just send it out, right? So that's something that I need your feedback. And then the theoretical framework, we're going to look at that, and then we are going to analyze based on that and basically process our data. We might do even for statistical purposes, we might do factor analysis. I think that's kind of a thing that we might probably do. And then look at the interpretation of our findings, and then basically wrap it up, conclusion and the future research direction that we might have. So the survey instrument that I gave you guys, sorry, I didn't print enough, but basically you can look at from somebody else. They are basically 7 demographic questions. Then we have 2 general questions about number of employees, because that's important for us. We want to make sure there are SMEs. And then some question about the technology in the organization, and some question about to what extent they are seeing big data is perceived as contributing to their strategic value. Because remember, if they think big data is kind of is going to be contributing to their strategic value, then their intention of use could increase. And then we have some question, the major factors involving big data adoption. And then it is a 7-point Likert scale that it is out there that you can look at. So next step of our research, we are going to refine the survey after getting our feedback. So this is not a final, please don't panic. I'm not going to send it out tomorrow. It's going to be there for a while. And then we are going to submit this survey after we finalize it for IRB, well, I put IB, IRB approval. And then we are going to send the survey out, and also we are going to conduct our semi-interview. So you can tell me how many SMEs you think is beneficial. We thought maybe 20 to 25. But again, that's something we want your feedback. And then a statistical analysis that we are going to use to analyze that using factor analysis, and then whatever else we need to do. Any questions? Yes.
Lila, just a comment. So I think my experience with small and medium-sized organizations is a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. So just as an example, in human resource management, a lot of small businesses are still using unstructured interviews to hire people. The research says you might as well flip a coin. A lot of small businesses do on-the-job training. For example, in restaurants, you just follow this person around, and it's terrible. They learn how to do all the wrong things. When it comes to compensation, a lot of organizations at that size have no idea what the market rate of pay is. They don't know what a job evaluation is. So, and there's places where they can go to get data on that. So I guess what I'm suggesting is, in addition to asking them about big data issues in general, it may be part of the project to both educate and then ask questions about the kinds of data that they need. I think you can make the same argument for marketing. You know, there's a lot of knowledge in marketing that aren't shared. So you go to a large company and they're going to have a staff of 12 human resource professionals handling that stuff. They're going to have a bunch of marketing people. They know that. But this asking the small business people who don't know much about those things, and the vast majority of whom are actually doing it wrong, do you want more data to help you make wrong decisions? That's not helpful. Educating them about the kinds of information that will help them make better decisions. I think, I'm not saying this is not useful. I'm saying in addition to asking them about more data and showing them how to do it, they need to know the content of the information that would be useful to them.
And maybe we can do in our preparation, we can create use cases to tell them that, look, this is how decisions can be taken better.
Or even just where to go. So for example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has this site called ONET, where you can go and find a job description for every imaginable legal job. But most small businesses wouldn't know about that. You know, there's surveys available on the market rate of pay. And I just think some of it is, some of it's more data, but it's more of the right kind of data. And there's an educational aspect to it where they just don't know what questions to ask because they don't know what they're doing wrong at this point. You know what I mean?
Because this will be actually also helpful to us in the sense that we can go to those sites and study the data that is there and put it in some sort of it's not big data, it is simply improving the business processes of SMEs in Florida. That can be the caption of what we are doing. So certainly we can do that too, and maybe we'll come to you, but if you point us out to the sites in addition to the ones that we have been reviewing, exploring, that would be fantastic. Because our community engagement, USFSM strategic direction, provide value to the community.
Yeah.
And doing what you are suggesting will be helpful and to us, because we have more material to form the basis of our survey. And so it's like a formative rather than just diagnostic survey. We are not trying to just figure out what they are doing, but also help them find out what they don't know.
Yes, right.
That's crucial.
Just comment.
Yeah, no, thank you. So just with that, so do you think we should put like, this survey, I have to also put something about, this is what is big data and, explain to them, right? At the beginning of it, before they do the survey too, right?
I think it might be useful for your purposes to just have a one-page asking them some basic questions about management and marketing and finance and accounting, seeing what they're doing and kind of tapping, what do they know at this point and what are they doing? And my guess is, given that so many, especially small businesses, go out of business so fast, and just when it comes to hiring, big company hires one person that shouldn't be there. They can survive it. A small business, you hire one wrong person, and that could be the end of the company right there. So if you just had one page kind of an assessment of what they know and what they're doing, that might help you kind of funnel and narrow the types of big data that would be most useful for small and medium enterprises.
Your
Do you
qualitative,
have a classification of big data in terms of
so your qualitative part should shape the survey.
Yeah.
My corollary to big data is social media. When I go out in marketing, everyone wants to know more about social media, but there's big data behind social media. So I'm just wondering, in a SME type of study, what are their priorities in terms of where would they like to see the big data applied to? Is it inventory, management techniques, social media, what have you?
So, taking a leaf out of CMM, capability maturity model, the most famous maturity model, we have, in my framework, we have a 5-level maturity model. And I guess what you are suggesting is the questions should be able to ascertain where a SME is in terms of its maturity or immaturity. And then we can lead them into where exactly in their business they will benefit, whether it is inventory, whether it is customer facing, whether it is staff related, or whether it is communications related, they have a website and so on. So I guess we do have something over there which will try and figure out whether they are 0.5 or 0 or -1. But basically it's a 0 to 5 scale or 1 to 5 scale on CMM.
Basically readiness.
Yeah.
Well, what's their problem?
What's their problem?
Got a problem, you're going to
Yes.
try to find that.
Yes. So you had
Just two thoughts. The first thought is we want to make it more generic and look at it in terms of data-driven decision making. Part of it could be big data. And that's because a lot of SMEs, they may not be actually even doing any data-driven decision making at all. So that's one thought I have. And
it's funny because there are not that many research for it, but there are research that I think a lot of in UK and in Denmark they are using, like SMEs are basically using, and I found the actual survey result of which has been like 1,000 companies or something like that they have surveyed, and they have that. But because maybe we are, our SMEs, they might not be ready at that point yet.
And the other thing is, as you look for targeting these companies to the study, you might want to kind of let's say, stratify and identify different kinds of industries. For example, some specific SMEs, they may be amenable to applying technology, data things, and certain industries, they may not be there yet. So if you could stratify them and target, that might be beneficial.
Yeah, and it will be around services more than production, and within that we can classify, whether it is hospitality or.
For example, a lot of medical services providers, they may have to, by law, keep track of a lot of data, and certain industries they may not be really required to.
Yes.
The other thing is we do have, I guess, a small business administration local office that's tied up with the Lila University. They have office on 64. I don't know where it is, but Route 64 or something. Do have. We don't see them here now. When the office got opened, actually they came here. We had a election meeting and all that. But they are supposed to be associated with us, with our College of Business, actually.
Wow. Okay.
So they have office in Route 64 somewhere, and they might be able to help you reach out to this.
I think that would be fantastic. Yeah,
That's
thank
good.
you.
That's
Also,
good.
the
Thank you.
entrepreneurship instructor, John Stewart, you should contact him.
Yeah, John
I'll
Stewart
give you
is
your contact. He knows people that are like in charge of some organizations, like the Gulf Coast CEO Forum would be one.
Through SCORE. And
Yeah.
and all that.
So some people that would be able to send out surveys.
Yeah.
You should contact him.
And interviews, set up interviews.
Not only are the 2 million small businesses in Florida, but many of them are 990s or subchapter S, where they have no employees whatsoever. So you may want to just dump them and just go for the employee.
The one that are
They are
physical.
going to really need data.
Yes. So we may have to say that it has to be at least 2 and more.
2 or more employees.
500.
And then all of a sudden you start to narrow it down.
I mean, we don't need the 2 million.
Yeah, right.
I mean, every accountant is included in this. And I don't know. I mean, the accountants can provide us with advice rather than us we providing them, right? Yes, sir.
Well, John,
No, please go.
right. First of all, thank you for this. I mean, it's fascinating, especially when robots are getting citizenships and stuff like this. It's all fascinating to hear all this. Now, well, I have a comment on your theoretical choice, and you may take it as some feedback. You talk about DOI, the diffusion of innovations, and you said you're not sure if you should use it or not. Well, I think you better stick with DOE, because diffusion of innovation is more like a whole system, because it normally talks about how technology is diffused or spread. So it does not talk about how companies or how individuals adopt technology. So, I mean, diffusion of innovation is a very large theory which takes adoption as a small part of it. So, for example, they also talk about time, how much time that technology has been out. So, I mean, the more the time, the wider the spread would be, or the social system, or the facilitating conditions, or so many other things. So, I don't think it would be a very good fit to your model what you are doing. Now, DOE. You said the justification is because it's newer and not many people have used it. But in fact, the date when it was proposed was 1990, and you have mentioned that earlier, right? But then we have newer theories like AUT, which was 2003. And even the extended version of that was 2012. So that's much more newer. So I think the justification you may look at is all the other theories which you talked about, like TAMP, TPB, TRA, reasoned action or technology acceptance model, AUT, all of them will focus on individuals, whether it's customers or employees. How do they adopt technology? DOE is the only one which focuses on organizational adoption. Since you're looking at SMEs, I think that would make more sense to justify that.
But I think that we have both framework, the TAM and TOE together to look at it from the individual side of it and the organization mix it up. I think that's
Well, I think that TOE takes into consideration factors which are individual, because there are three main issues. But one is organization, one is, I think, social, and one is technology. So the technology takes into effect the variables which are part of them, like how easy it is to use the technology or how useful it is. So I think you are good with TOE. It's just that you need to find a better justification to say that. And I think a better would be to say that it's the only theory which was proposed considering the organizational adoption. I mean, the other theories have been used in that context, but they were proposed first for individual adoption. So that
Thank you. Thanks. Very good feedback. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
In selecting organizations for your study, I'm just thinking it might be worthwhile to focus on those that are already doing little data well. So, a lot of companies that have 15 or fewer employees aren't required to do a lot of record keeping and so on by the government or by legally. And my sense is a lot of them don't do that very well. For example, you can ask a small business on Main Street, like you mentioned, what's your turnover rate? People come, people go, I'm not sure. You might ask people, how many people applied last year? Where were they? Where did they get the information to apply? And who are you hiring? I mean, and on what basis? So I just think if you stick with companies that are already used to the process of tracking their own data and their own process, then you say we've got more data, big data, that might help you make decisions. Or already have kind of a statistical mindset in that sense. If you go to a company that's not even tracking their own, they have no idea what their own turnover rate is or what the market rate for their employees are, or any of that stuff. I think this is not only a harder sell, but it may not benefit them as much. They need to start
similar to the comment you made,
Yeah.
that if there is a single person company, it's not really the company that will benefit by what we are trying to do, and that's what you are saying too. And I guess you are leading to process. I mean, Faizan is talking about adoption process. You are talking about business process.
Yeah.
And we are considering both categories of processes as the starting point for our study to provide value.
If you at least just limited it to small businesses with more than 15 employees,
Yes.
I think they would at least have some process for record keeping and thinking about tracking things.
You can easily stratify that, taking a list of payroll tax information.
And this company, the small business organization office, I think if we find that with Uncle John's to it, then it would be further helpful.
Well, just to add to Thomas's comment, you may also look at into the classification of SMEs. So, I mean, Harvard Business Review provides probably 3 or 4 classifications. One of them is like suppliers or sole or non-employee businesses, which is like sole proprietaries, where only the owner is doing everything he is doing. But there's one, I think, high growth businesses. High growth are those which are more innovation driven, or with having more than 20 or 25 employees. Perhaps that may help you in selecting your sample.
Yes. So we can. The sweet spot seems to be between 15 and 50. Although official definition is 250 to 500, but.
So the sample size, that's another thing that I have a question. What do you think about sample size if you're doing qualitative methods for the interviews? What would you consider, 25 SMEs are enough?
Well, it depends on the university, the population. You've got 20, you're doing sweet spot of 25 employees, then how many of them are there, and then you can figure out your sample size.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good comment. So if we have to do face-to-face qualitative questions, then 20 to 25 will be more than enough, in my opinion. In fact, with Joe Askren, I started with only 4, and those 4 are pretty in-depth.
Well, if even you are going with 20 to 25, you need to make sure that equally representing your sample.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
you're like really getting a skewed sample, it won't help.
The other thing you need to consider is if you are planning to target the entire state of Florida, you have to travel a lot. And so that's why you want to focus on a small region. I don't know,
We may do it in two parts. The whole study might be in two parts. One of which is just Sarasota, Bradenton, maybe Fort Myers and Arcadia, that region. And then depending on what we find over there, we may expand it to.
Because if we want to do quantitative for the survey, I didn't think this would be enough. So I thought, okay, it's the whole Florida. So if we do the quantitative, we can send it out. But we need to find those organizations who is that criteria, greater than 15 employees, less than,
There's a database, I forget the name of it, National something. It's actually, I consulted it 2 years ago when I came here to find an organization to do research at. They have it online in our library. You could probably talk to Diane to get the name of it. But it's nationwide, but you can restrict the search by state, by type of employee, by size, and it'll kick out a list of hundreds of organizations in whatever.
It's a big data list.
It's it's a large data list anyway.
How did I know you would say that?
the thing is, SBA local office, they should be able to, they would have a list of, because they would meet those clients on a regular basis. So we would have a client list.
So we are hoping we can send out the quantitative, maybe 1,000 surveys, hoping that out of that 10%, if 10% respond, we'll have a sample of 100. Don't know how it will pan out, but we'll give it a try. Okay, very valuable. Now,
next section. So the research is done. Now the other stuff.
So now we will go beyond 11. I was hoping we can check 11, but I think we'll go beyond 11. But we have time up to 11:30 officially. So for about 10 minutes, I want to show you the framework that is the best framework on earth. And then I'll hand over to Lila to do a bit of demo of IBM Watson and import IO. Now you can do the demo from the main machine, or you need your laptop to do that.
Yeah, I should be able, if I have internet there.
So what I have done is, okay, there is TOE and TAM and various other opportunities to use as frameworks and develop them. But the work that I did, in fact, at least an year before I came to USF. So it started in 2014, was in and around adoption model for big data. And the focus then and the focus now is also business decision making. So definitely in 2014, if someone asked what's big data, one of these two answers were coming up, and it is true partially even now. But the awareness that it has to help business processes is of value to us. So I have continued to highlight that this is where even large businesses, the focus should be here, and these two are slowly becoming a given. So there is less need for and less value coming out of these domains and researching in these domains as compared to over here. Because even when now you Google big data strategy, it still many a times results in these two answers rather than up there. So when it comes to strategic value to business, we find that processes, again, so okay, these are the opportunities, external and internal. There are additional like compliance and CSR and so on. But within these two, it's processes. How a certain activity takes place in a business needs to be benefited by embedding analytics in it. or utilizing technologies in it. So this looks rather complex, but it really boils down to helping businesses identify their processes and then helping them optimize those processes. And this is more, again, of more value to large businesses, because I did my action research, validation of my framework in large businesses, and that was in Sydney when I was there, and I found that maybe there is a value of this term even in small businesses, that the decision maker, of course, in a small business has much more freedom to decide and also to screw up the processes. So, and then when it comes to the use of the word agile, which is very, very popular in software domain and also becoming popular as a project management approach, has tremendous value at an organizational level. And again, before coming here, I found a couple of very interesting exercises. One was I had to deliver a set of lectures to graduate students in a building architecture class, 40 students. And I was asked to talk about agile. And these are people who are wearing hard hats and driving a dumper truck and pouring concrete. And they were studying architecture and building architecture. And so when I submitted my first set of slides, my sponsor who invited me said, just take it back and remove the word IT right through. I don't want you to talk about IT. I just want you to talk about agile. And that was my first learning experience of the importance of agility as a concept, as a culture in the organization. And I'm trying to use that agile as a business characteristic rather than Scrum and extreme programming. Of course, when I have to teach next semester, I'm teaching agile project management to graduate classes. I have to teach them Scrum for at least a couple of lectures. But other than that, there is a lot more to agile than simply software development. And that's where I have pitched this. So how to develop a strategy, a holistic strategy, how to utilize all this, and then principles and practices of agility and change management. And change management, I have explained as not changing from A to B, but continuously changing. Because the moment big data or any data-driven decision-making comes into play with SMEs or large businesses, they will change everything. And I think you were mentioning, someone was mentioning about technology and people and so on. So I'll show you where I have summarized it all. I showed this once, I think, in Rick, your research cafe a year ago. And I have got some printouts here. In case you haven't gone to sleep so far, I assure you, I have it on my
I want one.
You will just and I'll take you to
You have it memorized? No.
You're leaving?
Can I get a magnifying glass with it?
You just
You have
touch
one?
this and then you should go.
Do you need a magnifying glass, really?
Just touch it.
I think
You should touch it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I like your 3D thinking.
Thank you.
So anyone who touches this book gets a free coffee, and if they buy it at author's price, then I buy them lunch. Because this is the best book possible.
Is that, did you write that one?
It just so happens to have my name on it.
Oh.
But it's all the 1,000 books there were. But
500 pages. Very impressive.
so if you look at okay, these are the 5 modules, key modules, and this is like the data science and data analytics module, and then this is the presentation and visualization, and this is where I have talked about TESP, technology, economy, social, and process test as a sub framework. And the questions that we are designing and all are actually based out of this, and this. And then there are agile practices over here, but we also spend a bit of time discussing, figuring out where the SMEs are, what's their current maturity. And this particular slide, business layer, business condition, is where we will ask the question of what type of business, whether it is product or service, and whether it is a physical or virtual business, and what is its size and its organizational structure and so on. So this is like mother of all frameworks in terms of big data adoption. And I have not left anything out, but there might be still something that might be missing. So there's a 12-lane adoption project plan, opportunity metrics, and so on. Up on there is agile. So what we mean by agile, and in that corner over there are the two keywords, speed and accuracy. So when this business values is defined, it actually summarizes for SMEs into speed and accuracy of decision making. And this is a shorter version or an abstract version of this. And this is the project plan starting point, 12 lanes, but 4 iterations. So each lane could be repeated. And this is the enterprise architecture. So I have used both the Zachman and TOGAF, which is the open group architecture framework, with these 6 questions: what, why, when, where, how, and who. And then these layers are mine and not Zachman's. And I will send this out to all of you, but I'm trying to create a big data manifesto. And I have searched, there are 3 or 4 available, but they are no good. I am creating a manifesto that is aimed directly at business, and I'm looking for 2 things from you. One is any suggestions for correction, but this manifesto also appears in the book. So minimum corrections will be better, but if something is wrong, you can correct it. And then you can always say, I agree or I subscribe to this manifesto. And I've done that in various conferences and with many friends. So that is my part of big data framework for agile business. And the questions are derived out of that, but I have told Lila that you have all the freedom to include TAM and TOE. But I believe this framework has in some way or shape can be mapped into TAM or TOE. So Lila, over to you, and she's going to show some tools, like 2 tools, IBM Watson and Import IO. Import IO actually is interesting, and when we presented this in IEEE in Washington DC, people were quite interested. We were presenting it in NIST, and there were a couple of NIST employees who were in the audience, and they said, let me see if Import IO can crawl. It's a crawler, and it goes to website and pulls data and does some basic analytics on that data. And they were keen to know how far deep Import IO can go to pull data from NIST, because NIST is supposed to be so highly secure. So it was a interesting, enjoyable exercise, and I'll let Lila take her time and demo both IBM Watson and Import IO.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is big data tools and technologies out there. Of course, this is screen. Oh, let me just make it. So this is what you can see from 2005 up to 2015. All of these tools that are out here. So that you can see here, and maybe some of you are using this, like Hadoop, and of course the Cloudera maybe, or MapReduce, or maybe the SAS. And the newest one, which kind of started, which we are going to look at it today, is IBM Watson. So I divided the tools in terms of because there are all these tools out there, but we use them for certain purposes. So the first part is data storage and management tools, which Hadoop is one of them. Maybe you have heard about the name. It's basically open source, actually. It's not, you don't have to pay or anything like that. And it is out there for distributed storage of very large data sets or clusters. And MongoDB is also a startup approach to database. And it's also another alternative to relational database that we have there. It's good for managing data that changes frequently or data that's unstructured. So most of these big data tools, we are looking at unstructured data as well. We have Talent is another open source company. They are open source as well. They offer a number of data products and the master data management offering, which combines the real-time data analysis as well as integration of the data. Also, we have some cleaning tools because, you know, always when we teach the database, we say you have to clean your data before it can go anywhere. So there are, same thing for big data, there are some cleaning tools out there. OpenRefine is an open source. Most of these are open source softwares that is dedicated to clean messy data. You can explore huge data set easily and quickly. So maybe as part of the educational thing, we might want to include some of these for the small, medium-sized businesses. And at the end, maybe we can suggest to them, because I'm sure there are a lot of small, medium-sized enterprises who don't know. Even us as educators, we don't know all these tools because it's just very new, most of them 2014 above. So it's kind of changing. Data Cleaner recognized that data manipulation is a long and drawn out task. So they provide data visualization tool to clean the data, and also Trifecta Wrangler. Also, that is another one that you can use, spend less time searching for and cleaning your data. That's another tool that cleans data as well. Data mining tool, which I think maybe that are out there. One of them that is very famous nowadays is kind of RapidMiner, is the tool for predictive analysis. And again, it is open source. I think we are using it here. Dr. Anurag, you're using it in your courses here. And we have Oracle data mining tools, which allow users to discover insight, make prediction. Of course, you have to pay. That's not open source, it's Oracle. So maybe a large companies are using that. R, that is another tool. It's open source, which again, Dr. Anurag is using it in his class. And it's helping us to mine the data that you can build a statistical software or run sophisticated data analysis. And there's a learning curve for R. It's not easy to use, as you can attest to that. Data visualization, Tableau is very famous. Of course, there are a lot other than Tableau nowadays, which is out there, is the focus of it on business intelligence. You can create maps, bar charts, scatter plots, and you don't need to know programming, which is kind of, that's how it started. Silk is another one that's out there, and it's also simpler data visualization. It's simpler to use than Tableau. Chartio also is another data visualization tool that is very easy to use. You can create powerful dashboard in just few clicks, which you don't need to know any kind of the programming behind it as well. And then Import.io, I like the data collection tools, but there are not that many. And this used to be open source, but not anymore, unfortunately, because it came out like 2-3 years ago and it was open source and it was doing great. Now you get a trial version and you still can use it, but it limits the amount of data that you can store on it. So it's not completely free, but I use it sometimes as well. Is a tool for data extraction. So basically it extracts a bunch of stuff from a website. So basically you want to know, for example, a Groupon site and you want to extract the data out of it, this is what it does for you. And you can convert those websites to a structured, machine readable data with no coding. So it kind of pulls everything that's on that site into kind of a structure format. Then you have to play around with it. And of course, you have to clean it up and all that. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is kind of a demo of 2 things. But before we get into IBM Watson, I want just to tell you something about it. If you're not familiar with it, how many of you know about IBM Watson? Okay, so half. Well, Watson is a self-service, cloud-based data discovery and business intelligence tool from the IBM. There are many BI tools that are out there that they are basically looking at what has happened in the past, and they're using basic analytic and reporting capabilities. But this IBM Watson is kind of using something like cognitive analytic, which is natural NPL, natural processing language. So which is basically, it can, like once you put, and I'm going to show you, once you put the words and things like that, it can actually use the natural processing language. It can create, and it does all these algorithms behind the scene, which you don't need to know all these algorithms. And it's going to create you visualization, and it's going to create you the stuff that you might need. So it's a minimum learning curve required to use this platform. It is minimum because you don't need to know programming for all those harder stuff. You don't need to know how to write the algorithm. You're not writing the algorithm. The algorithm, IBM Watson, is written behind the scene for you. And so basically, Watson Analytic is one of the only tools to use natural language dialogue to help guide analysis, which is very useful. So it can give you unbiased analysis by automatically detecting correlations, hierarchical, and trends in your data, and dynamically serving up cognitive start point. And you can build on it. I mean, you can customize it to your own needs. You need to know a little bit more to customize it, or you can use the model that IBM Watson creates for you. So hopefully this would work because I had it on my computer, now I brought it here. So the use case that I want you guys to think about is basically, we want to, before I start showing you, the role of marketing analyst for IBM Airlines. So our CEO is interested basically in understanding more about what drives customer satisfaction, and it's our job to investigate. So basically the CEO wants to know what drives customer satisfaction for this airline. So we need to analyze all this data to come up with this. So we have to access to, and also we have access to a customer service data set, because if we didn't have data, then there was no way for us to analyze. So we will have some kind of a spreadsheet, and that's what I want to look at, maybe the small, medium-sized companies, because they have spreadsheets. I mean, when I was doing before a survey, even I had my students go and look at the small, medium-sized companies and create database for them. They would say, we have a database, and it's full of Excel spreadsheets that they have done a lot of calculation, everything on. So they definitely have a spreadsheet. And for IBM Watson, all you have to do is take that spreadsheet and put it in there, and then you can do the rest. So this is kind of like 130,000 respondents over the past 90 days, for example. This is the survey result. So let's look at this. I might have to, this is recording, but I don't know. So this is the survey kind of a thing, the Excel. You see it's pure Excel spreadsheet that I have here of all these bunch of rows and columns, and probably a lot of companies will have something like that. So it's something very simple. So let me just log into the IBM Watson. And before I do that, I just want to tell you guys that we as educator, if you want to use this, we actually have
spyware alert. Foreigner graphics spyware risk where detected. Error number 0.
Oh God, some kind of a spyware. Okay. I don't know what had just happened, but something just happened. But okay. So we as an educator, we have access to the IBM Watson. Where is the website now? I think this is the one. Yeah. You might ask me how. I will send you, if you're interested, I will send you a link. You can just click on that link and it will give you access of 1 year, and you can renew it. So it's something that before I thought we don't have access, but then I searched more into it, and now I found the access, because this, I mean, once you sign up here, you can sign up for free, and it gives you for 1 month. So that 1 month might not be enough for you. So you need to get that educator license, but you have to somehow tell them that you are doing it either for research or you are going to use it in your classrooms, which I think it's very beneficial. Actually, I want to look into it. Maybe I will use it in my database courses to just show them some part of it. It's going to be interesting. But you can actually have it, especially if you are in business, in marketing. Marketing can take a benefit of it. You know, if you are in other areas, you can all take a look at it. So let me just log in. I didn't use my educator account to create something, so I have to use another email because I was keep using emails for different trial versions. Sorry. So I have now many. I've used like 3-4 email addresses to get the trial version continuing. So I was tired of that. I'm like, I need to have some sort of a way to get this done. I don't know why the screen is like this, but it's okay. There is something out there, but we don't see it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this is basically the IBM Watson analytics that's out there. So you can come here. There's a new thing that I'm going to show you first. This is IBM because I thought we might have some marketing people in here, so I thought this is very interesting. IBM Watson Analytics for social media. So this is very new. It's like maybe less than 1 year. It's a year old. So when we click on this, I think there is some problem with, okay. So I already have this one here with this account. I have this one, so I have various accounts. So with this one, I have this grocery thing here. You can create a new project. Let's say, so basically, I'm going to show you how to create a new project, and then I will go to the grocery example because we don't have that much time to populate it. So I'm going to create, maybe our new example could be, we want to know, so again, we have to ask question. What do we want to know, right? We want to know maybe everything about, is Thanksgiving? Yeah, Thanksgiving is coming soon, maybe in a month. So we want to know if people are talking about Thanksgiving because maybe the marketers, they want to show some kind of a product. They want to, you know, have some audience. They want to know where what everybody's talking about, what kind of a product they're talking about, you know, or basically anything that you want to know. You guys are the expert in the field of business, so or marketing. Kelly, you have any things that you want to know maybe?
I was interested in what people are buying as far as gluten-free products or something along that line.
Okay, maybe I can go back to my grocery example. Okay, or maybe we can go, I will just do the Thanksgiving. You don't have to call, you can just call it Thanksgiving and say next. So what are the topics that we want to have? So maybe you want to know if they are talking about gluten free. We want to know maybe, so you need to help me to produce these, you know, the topics that you want to know, you want to get from it. So let me just go back. So this is how you create. You create the topics, you create the themes that you have out there, and then you put the date and language. So I'm going to go back for the purpose of time, and because I'm going to go back to my grocery because I've created some stuff for it. So we are going to grocery here.
So to refine the feedback that you get from the tool, you have to really think through the questions that you want to ask.
Yes. That's why it's kind of like it's your thinking, your mind that comes into this. You have to help it. Why is it not coming? Something is wrong. Okay, let me see what's going on here.
It's just taking time.
Yeah.
Are there times during the day that IBM Watson is busier than others?
Maybe in the morning right now. It is busy. It is taking its time, definitely. Come on.
We can do a recording and send it out offline.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's taking its time.
You can show import IO.
No, let me just, I'm gonna go back to my example there and kind of tell you, and we are gonna populate it just few things more. So we don't have to go, now I logged out, great. Okay. Yeah, I think I have to record this and put it for you guys because it's not working right now. Maybe I refreshed it, maybe it might work now.
Will it be visuals or will it be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Visuals. Something was wrong, maybe. It shouldn't take that long, but I just logged out and logged back in and it works. So basically, I set all those things up, like my grocery data set. I actually populated it with a bunch of stuff I wanted to know about, like meat, poultry, like fish, all of these things. And then I wanted to give it a theme. Maybe, you know, the theme could be gluten-free, or maybe the theme could be anything that you want to think about. So you will show that there, and then it automatically, you can bring it up here. So it is already showing you some hints that you can follow. What is the number of author by author company? So basically you can see the posts that are out there. So what are the breakdown of the year by author country? So you want to maybe find out, let's click here. You want to find out how many people maybe are talking about this thing, this topic that you put in there. And it's bringing you all these visualization. You see how you can see? It is bringing you all of these visualization that's out there. And I have to create a video for this because here is very different. And so basically you can actually, you have all these things that you can change down here as well. So the graphic is here, the visualization, you can change it. Like right now, this is the visualization. It gives you ability to change it, bar, chart, area, heat map, or however you want to change it. So you can bring it in here and change that. You can change a lot of things here to show maybe the x-axis and y-axis different things. You can change that as well. So basically, it does a lot of things for you. And then, so your data, you put it in, then when you click on discover, you're actually going to see that result that I just showed you. And display will also, right now we didn't create anything for the display here, but we can also create dashboards. When we can create dashboards and show the stuff here too. So let me just go, okay. I'm gonna create a video for this and show it to you because it's very interesting, but right now I think something is not right. But there is other things that I wanted to show you for the IBM Watson is that you can bring that spreadsheets. So if I go to here, the airline, you can actually import that spreadsheet. So this is a CSV file. You just click on import and it imports it in. I already imported it. So you can see like once you import it in, the starting point, it's kind of giving you hints how you can start this. So what drives satisfaction? If I click here, it's going to give you a spiral model of what drives satisfaction in here. And you can just go down here. There are some discovery here. You can see the female comparing to male, you know, the percentage of flight that they had. So the lowest average in satisfaction is this. It goes by age. You can click on it and it will just drill in. You can drill on anything. So it will show you by age. Like what I found out when I went, I'm not going to do it because it might take long, but it will show you that, for example, people who were above 60 years old and under 20 were not satisfied. Like they were the lowest satisfied people for that airline maybe. And then you can play around with this a lot. So for sake of time, I'm not going to go further to this, but I will create a video. I think it's very beneficial for you guys to have this whole video with this use case. I'm going to have the use case for this and create a video so you can look at it. And then you can easily sign up. I will also, after this, I'm going to send you an email that you can get this faculty version of it for free. So you can basically start using it in your classroom or for your research because it does a lot. You don't have to know any programming language. You just have to have your logic correctly in your head. And then you put it in there and it will create these models for you. So you don't need to actually know all of those algorithms that you used to use to create this. So it's very powerful. Another thing that I want to show you guys is import.io. I think the best is to create videos for these things. And
Lila, can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Is there data that they already have in Boston, or do you have to bring your own data?
They do. They have some sample data.
Or is it
Sample data, but you need, and it's easy. I mean, your own data could be in Excel spreadsheet. You can import it in. Like this survey, I just imported in. It's in Excel. But they have some sample data. No, they don't have the data that, you know.
Because my biggest problem has always been is trying to get access to data. You're talking about corporations, they don't let it go. I was gonna ask you, how are you getting, or can we talk offline or something? Because that was a problem, is not being able to get access to those big databases.
Yeah, that I have the same problem, but you know, IBM Watson is good. That's why if we have this small, medium-sized company use this, I don't know how much we have to find out how much it is for them, but for us it's free.
The comparison will be RapidMiner, Anurag, that you will be teaching, and IBM Watson, and see if the analytics that you are doing in RapidMiner are any better or cheaper for SMEs. And then the question is, of course, getting the data, but which of these tools are of value to SMEs might be an interesting question for us to answer. Like take the same data set, because Lila is importing right now a CSV file. And I think last lecture you said that RapidMiner can now accept both CSV and Excel. So that kind of a comparison between two or more tools can be, in fact, can be a student project as well, to get the basic comparison done.
Okay, this thing, I don't know, I think my thing just expired. But this I keep using different email address to use it. And this is basically, you can see that my plan expired just now. But it bills monthly $2.99 a month, which is very expensive now. This used to be free, but right now we don't have it. So, but you can use the trial version. Okay, so I'm gonna create a video for this one too, because right now, I don't know, it's not working for me here either. But it should work because it just, the limit is not enough, but I don't know, I have to click an X somewhere.
Slides. We have some slides here.
For that?
I think we are out of time.
Yeah.
Well, they may have a video online
Yeah.
advertising it for IO.
But
Yeah, we
what
can
I
look at
found,
that.
Fascinating is it could crawl through hundreds of thousands of websites to pull data, or it can go in one website and pull data and analyze it. And I think they have named it aptly import IO. The thing is, it cannot go beyond the secure firewall. So the data is going to get, it doesn't answer your question, like how do we go into American Airlines?
So in this recording,
But there might be some publicly available large databases that might be of interest.
So let's just watch this 5 minutes.
We'll send it, let's not do it right now, because we are out of time.
No problem. Yeah, I can send you that.
Yeah, I think we'll.
But it is, it's very good because it pulls all the data from, for example, Groupon, and then you can actually, so that's something that maybe we can talk about, getting data. So if you know a website, like if you want to get data from it, like for example, Groupon, you can use this to get the data from Groupon.
It's open and accessible for you to go and take it?
Yeah, because it is going behind the Groupon data and then imports it. It's like a tool that imports it in. So you can have it in Excel spreadsheet and then put it in IBM Bots. But this thing, right now, I mean, you can use the free trial. I've used it. I have some data in it. I got from few databases. I kind of populated it. But it's a trial version. It used to be free, but now it's not. So you can use trial version. And if there is a website that you want to get all the data from it, you can use this. And the trial version does everything for you. Like, it works perfectly for 1 month. So that way, maybe that can help.
Okay, so time to conclude. Thank you. So yeah, both Lila and I would like to thank you all, and to those who had to leave for some reason or other. It was great. We were thinking, how many people? I said we can present to one, and that's it. Because this is Rick's research cafe. He has to be here. But thank you for organizing it, Rick, over the past few years, and it's a great initiative. You know, it just gives us a forum to try out ideas in a friendly. I'm assuming friendly because it has been friendly so far. So to all of you, you spent 2 precious hours this morning. You are very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, please use these 2 tools because I'm very interested to see if we can, you know, maybe do something with it. But I think it's very useful.
Thank you.
Exit this Zoom.
That's very encouraging.
Thanks for coming. Thank you. Great presentation. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about funding, but this is the very next step, is having a project funded. Yeah, that is so. There are I-Core monies that you could apply for that this would be perfect for. If we can develop a sound proposal, and I have Sakar Sujit coming from USF campus, who leads the I-Core program for the USF system. They'll be here in the spring, and I think that you guys are perfect for that program.
That's very kind.
Great, yeah.
So, do you have it complete that we can start off with? Or
Sure.
Okay, so I'll wait for your email, please. And we'll just use that to create a draft, run it past you, get some more input from others. So, in spring we will be ready.
Perfect. Thanks, great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
For you, I have anything. This is the data. Okay.